Some songs come and go. They rise like fireworks, shine for a moment, and vanish. But once in a generation, a song arrives and refuses to die. For Africa, that song was Premier Gaou. When it first echoed through Abidjan in 1999, nobody could have predicted what was coming. It wasn't polished pop. It wasn't recorded in a multi-million-dollar studio. It was Zunglu, a street sound born from wooden benches, tin drums, and raw voices that told the stories of people. And yet, hidden inside this rhythm was something universal, a story everyone could understand. The story was simple. A young man is dumped by his girlfriend because he's broke. Later, when he finds success, she wants him back. But instead of taking her seriously, he laughs at her. It was a song about betrayal, but it was told with humor, with rhythm, with an energy that made sadness feel like celebration. At first, it was just another street anthem in Abidjan, played in open-air bars, blasted from cracked radios, danced in dusty courtyards. But little by little, it started to travel, first across West Africa, then across the continent, and then Paris. In the early 2000s, African students and immigrants carried Premier Gaou to France. DJs in Parisian clubs gave it a try. The reaction was instant. Within seconds, the dance floor exploded. Strangers who didn't even know the words sang along. Soon, it was everywhere, on French radio, in Belgian nightclubs, on London student campuses. Premier Gaou had jumped from the streets of Abidjan to the heartbeat of Europe. But what made it different was its endurance. Most songs usually fade away. This one only grew stronger. At weddings in Abidjan, it became a must-play tradition. At football matches, entire stadiums roared the chorus like a war chant. In Paris, it became a soundtrack of the African diaspora. And 2 decades later, it refuses to slow down. On TikTok, young creators still dance to it. On YouTube, covers and remixes pile up by the thousands. On Instagram, its lines still appear as captions above love, heartbreak, and triumph. Ask DJs from Lagos to New York, from Abidjan to Brussels, and they will tell you, drop Premier Gaou in a party and watch the crowd come alive. This isn't just a story of a hit song. It's the story of how 4 young men, once laughed at and rejected, carried the sound of Zunglu to the world stage. It's the story of resilience, of rhythm, of how music born in poverty became a timeless anthem. This is the story of Magic System and the song that refused to die. To understand the magic of Magic System, you first have to understand where they came from. Abidjan, the beating heart of Côte d'Ivoire. In the 1980s and 1990s, Abidjan was a city of contrast. On one side, modern buildings, shiny cars, and bustling businesses. On the other, crowded neighborhoods where people struggled just to get by. One of those neighborhoods was Anoumabo, a small district in Makori, known for its narrow streets, vibrant marquee bars, and endless rhythms of daily survival. Life in Anoumabo wasn't easy. Families were large, money was tight, and young people often had to grow up fast. But despite hardships, there was always music. In the evenings, you could hear it everywhere, from radios blasting Coupé-Décalé and Congolese rumba, to young men drumming on cans and wooden benches, creating rhythms that seemed to rise out of the dust itself. It was in this world that future members of Magic System were born. As children, they were surrounded by Zunglu, a style of music that was more than just entertainment. Zunglu was a voice for the youth. It's a way of expressing frustration, joy, hope, and criticisms of society. It came from campuses of Ivorian universities where students would gather to sing about politics, corruption, and daily struggles, all wrapped in humor and rhythm. The young boys of Anoumabo were drawn to this sound. They weren't studying in universities, but they understood the message. They understood the humor, the storytelling, the social commentary. To them, Zunglu was life itself. By the teenage years, they began experimenting. They borrowed instruments where they could, often playing with broken guitars or improvised drums. They sang in courtyards, performed in streets, and entertained crowds in local marquees. At first, it was just for fun, a way to escape the difficulties of daily life. But slowly, it became more than that. The boys noticed something. Whenever they performed, people stopped to listen. Their jokes, their stories, their harmonies struck a chord with their community. They had a gift, not just to entertain, but to connect. And so in the early 1990s, they came together officially as a group. They called themselves Magic System, a name that reflects both their hope and their belief that music could create something extraordinary, something magical, even in the middle of struggles. At first, Magic System was just a neighborhood group among many. They weren't stars, they weren't rich, they had no producer, no radio, no studio, no industry connection, just raw talent, friendship, and determination. But what set them apart was their vision. While many groups sung only for their neighborhoods, Magic System wanted more. They wanted their songs to speak to the whole of Côte d'Ivoire. They wanted to make Zouglou not just a local style, but a movement that will cross borders. Little did they know that their journey from the small, dusty streets of Anoumabo would lead them to some of the biggest stages in the world. Before the fame, the sold-out concerts, and the international tours, Magic System were just 4 young men trying to survive on the streets of Abidjan. Life wasn't easy, instruments were rare and expensive. A drum could cost more than a month's rent. A guitar, almost impossible for a teenager to afford. Recording studios were few, and only those with money or connections could afford them. But Magic System was determined. When they didn't have instruments, they made their own. They played on empty tin cans, used old crates as drum sets, and borrowed guitars whenever a neighbor would lend them one. Their rehearsals were often held in cramped, dimly lit. Sometimes was no electricity, so they would rehearse by candlelight, their shadows dancing on the wall as they practiced harmonies late into the night. On the streets, they sang for whoever would listen, neighbors, market vendors, and passers-by. When they recorded, it was a struggle. The group often had to sneak their tapes into hands of local DJs, hoping they would play them in small bars and clubs. There were nights when they returned home empty-handed, their cassette tapes lost, broken, or ignored. It was rejection after rejection, but they kept going. Even their basic survival was a challenge. Money was scarce. After long rehearsals, they would pull together a few coins to buy achike, which is an Ivorian delicacy, sometimes sharing a single meal among them 4. There were nights when they went hungry, but never nights without rehearsals or music. Their families were worried. Parents begged them to focus on real jobs. Neighbors laughed at their dreams, dismissing Zouglou as noise that would never pay the bills. Record executives turned them away, claiming their sound had no future. Yet through it all, Magic System discovered something important. Music was their weapon. Their voices carried the struggles, the hopes, and the humor of everyday people. On the streets of Abidjan, they became storytellers, turning ordinary life into rhythm and melody. These were years that shaped them, not just as musicians, but as men. The hunger, the rejection, the endless rehearsals, the stolen instruments, all of it fueled their creativity. It taught them resilience, it taught them unity, and it prepared them for breakthrough that will come with a song called Premier Gaou. In those years, Magic System learned a truth that will define their career. It wasn't about where you start, it was about how far your music will take you. Then came the song that changed everything, Premier Gaou. The inspiration was deeply personal. Asalfo, the leader of Magic System, had been in love with a young woman, but because he was poor, struggling as a musician, she left him for someone wealthier. Heartbroken, he could have written a sad song, but instead he laughed and he turned that laughter, that mix of pain and humor, into a song. The title Premier Gaou comes from Nuchi, a street slang of Abidjan. It literally means first fool. The message is simple and powerful. The person who deceives you is the first fool, but if you let them fool you a second time, then you are the fool. It was witty, honest, and relatable. Every listener could see themselves in the story. First, the recordings were modest. Magic System worked in a small studio with minimal equipment. The group poured their hearts into the track, layering harmonies over infectious Zulu rhythms, mixing traditional percussions with catchy melodies. When the song was first released locally in 1999, it became an instant street anthem. People sang it everywhere, in marquee bars, at football games, on buses, in the crowded markets of Abidjan. Everyone, from teenagers to older adults, could relate to its story and dance to its rhythms. But the real magic happened a few years later. In 2002, the French record label Los Africa noticed the song and decided to release it in Europe. At first, some doubted whether a street Zulu song could succeed outside Africa. But once Premier Gaou hit the airwaves in Paris, the reaction was explosive. Clubs were packed, DJs couldn't keep up, people who didn't understand French sang along anyway, captivated by rhythm, the laughter, and the story. The song climbed charts in France, Belgium, and Switzerland. By the end of 2002, it had sold over 300,000 copies in France alone, an incredible feat for a group from a small neighborhood in Abidjan. Magic System suddenly went from local heroes to international stars. They were invited to perform at festivals, on television shows, and in sold-out concert halls across Europe. The world was dancing to a story that had started as heartbreak on the streets of Abidjan. Even today, the song remains timeless. Its infectious rhythms continues to fill wedding halls, nightclubs, and football stadiums. Social media keeps it alive as well. TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube covers introduce Premier Gaou to younger generations. It's a song that refuses to die, carrying with it the humor, resilience, and joy that made Magic System legends. And through Premier Gaou, Magic System taught a lesson that will define their career. Music born from truth and emotion can travel across oceans, touch millions, and become history. With the international success of Premier Gaou, Magic System's journey took off like never before. From the streets of Abidjan, they were now performing on the world stage, and the world was listening. After conquering Europe, Magic System realized that their music would bridge cultures. They began collaborating with other African legends and international stars, blending their signature Zulu rhythms with reggae, pop, and world music. One of their most famous collaborations was with Khalid, the king of Rai music, on the song titled Mempa Fati. This track became a massive hit, uniting Zulu and North African sounds in a way that no one had expected. They also worked with Amadou and Miriam, the blind musical duo from Mali, combining heartfelt melodies with their infectious dance beat. Each collaboration expanded their sound, reaching audiences who had never heard of Zulu before. Magic System's energy, harmonies, and humor made every song instantly recognizable, whether on African radio or European charts. The group's live performances became legendary. Concerts in Paris, Brussels, London sold out in hours. In Africa, the ephemeral festival appearances were more than shows. They were celebrations of culture, unity, and joy. Tens of thousands of fans danced together, waving flags, singing the lyrics word for word, showing that Magic System had become more than a band. They were a cultural phenomenon. Awards and recognitions followed. They won multiple African Music Awards, international music accolades, and were celebrated by governments and cultural institutions for bridging African music to the world stage. But even with all the fame, they stayed true to their roots. The message in their songs remained the same: joy, resilience, humor, and connection. Through these celebrations, Magic System proved that music had no borders. They connected African diasporas, brought different musical traditions together, and inspired a generation of artists who saw that local sounds could become global hits. By the mid-2000s, Magic System was no longer just a group. They were ambassadors of African culture. Their songs were played at weddings, clubs, schools, and stadiums across continents. From streets of Abidjan to the stages of Paris and beyond, their rhythm had become universal. Every collaboration, every festival, every sold-out concert reinforced a truth that they had learned from the beginning. Music created with honesty and joy doesn't just entertain, it unites, inspires, and endures. Magic System's legacy isn't just about their hits. In 1999, even before Premier Gaou exploded, they created the Magic System Foundation. As their fame grew, so did their social impact. The foundation focused on three main issues: education, health, culture, and sports. In education, they built and renovated schools in rural Côte d'Ivoire, giving thousands of children access to proper classroom and learning materials. In health, they funded hospitals, provided medical supplies, and organized campaigns on issues like malaria prevention and maternal health care. In culture and sports, they created opportunities for young people to discover music, art, and football, offering them an alternative to crime and unemployment. One of their most famous initiatives is the annual Festival de Musique Urbaine de Anoumabo, quote-unquote FEMUA, launched in 2008. Hosted in the childhood neighborhood of Anoumabo, the festival brings together African and international artists, attracts tens of thousands of fans, and injects life into the local economy. Through FEMUA, Magic System gave their community a gift that keeps giving, a platform for local artists and talent, and to showcase creativity of Africans. Because of this effort, Asaf was named UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for Peace, using his influence to promote education, cultural dialogue, and unity across Africa. Few music groups in the world would have matched this balance: global stardom on one hand, grassroots community development on the other hand. More than 25 years after its release, Premier Gaou has not faded. It has grown stronger. In Africa, it's a classic. No wedding, no family gathering, no street party is complete without it. The song comes on, and everyone, old and young, jumps to their feet. Its chorus has become part of everyday slang. In Europe, especially in France and Belgium, the song is a nostalgic throwback. Many who first danced to it in the early 2000s still play it at parties today. DJs say whenever they spin Premier Gaou, the dance floor fills instantly. In football stadiums, it has become an anthem. During the 2006 World Cup, Ivorian fans sang it proudly. Later, French clubs and African teams adopted it as celebration chants. In 2020, during the COVID-19 lockdowns, people across the world posted dance videos to Premier Gaou as a way of finding joy during dark times. What makes it timeless? Its simplicity, its humor, its rhythm, and its story. Everyone, no matter where they come from, understands the pain of heartbreak and the joy of overcoming it. And that's why Premier Gaou isn't just Magic System's biggest hit. It's a cultural treasure. It's a song that has outlived trends, crossed borders, and proven that true stories, told with honesty and rhythm, will never die. So what is the legacy of Magic System? It's not just the millions of records sold, or the stadiums filled, or the awards won. It's the fact that 4 young men from Abidjan took Zouglou, a local street sound, and made it a global treasure. They taught us that even heartbreak can be turned into celebration, that music can unite continents, that laughter can heal wounds. Premier Gaou will forever remind us that the fool is not the one who fails, but the one who gives up. And Magic System never gave up. This is their magic. This is their legacy. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of Africa's greatest music legends. See you on the next, and thanks for watching again.